Austria is easy to underestimate on a map. It is landlocked, smaller than many European countries, and today has a population of about 9.2 million people. But its history is anything but small. This country in Central Europe once stood at the center of one of the continent's most powerful dynasties, helped shape the politics of the Holy Roman Empire, became the heart of a vast imperial state, and later chose a very different identity: neutrality, democracy, and European cooperation. Austria's story is not simply the story of mountains, classical music, and Vienna's grand buildings. It is the story of a strategic crossroads, where geography, empire, war, collapse, and reinvention all meet. Geography is the first key to understanding Austria. The country lies in Central Europe, much of it within the Eastern Alps. It borders Germany and the Czech Republic to the north and northwest, Slovakia and Hungary to the east, Slovenia and Italy to the south, and Switzerland and Liechtenstein to the west. This location made Austria both a barrier and a bridge. The Alps protected and divided regions, while river valleys and mountain passes connected trade routes, armies, cultures, and political influence. Vienna, the capital, sits in the east rather than the mountainous west, close to the Danube and to historic routes leading toward Hungary, the Balkans, and the wider European plain. That position helped make Vienna more than a capital city. It became a diplomatic, administrative, and imperial nerve center. Long before Austria had its modern name or borders, the region was inhabited by humans going back to at least the Paleolithic period. Over thousands of years, its valleys and plains became home to different peoples, including Celtic communities by around 400 BC. The Celts were followed by Roman expansion in the late 1st century BC, bringing the area into the orbit of the Roman world. Roman control introduced roads, towns, military outposts, and administrative systems that connected the region to a much larger empire. Christianity began spreading in the late Roman period, especially during the 4th and 5th centuries. When Roman authority weakened, Germanic tribes moved through and settled in parts of the region during the migration period. This layered past matters because Austria did not emerge from a blank slate. Its later identity grew out of centuries of Roman, Celtic, Christian, Germanic, and frontier influences. The political beginnings of Austria came from frontier zones known as marches. At the end of the first millennium, the area that would become Austria developed from the remnants of the Eastern and Hungarian marches. These were border territories connected to the Holy Roman Empire, designed partly to defend and organize the edge of imperial influence. In 1156, Austria became a duchy, a sign that its local rulers had gained greater status and political importance. In 1453, it was elevated again, becoming an archduchy. These titles may sound ceremonial, but they reflected real changes in power. Austria was moving from a borderland into a core territory with increasing prestige. It was becoming a platform from which ambitious rulers could expand influence across Central Europe. The dynasty most closely tied to Austria was the House of Habsburg. From the late 13th century, Austria became the heartland of the Habsburg monarchy. The Habsburgs were not only local rulers, they were masters of dynastic politics. Through inheritance, marriage, diplomacy, and war, they assembled territories across Europe. Austria's importance grew because it served as one of the dynasty's stable bases. From the 16th century, Vienna also became an administrative capital of the Holy Roman Empire. That did not mean Austria controlled the empire like a modern centralized state, because the Holy Roman Empire was a complex patchwork of territories. But it did mean that Austria and Vienna were deeply involved in imperial politics, diplomacy, and European power struggles. For centuries, the name Austria became inseparable from Habsburg authority. Vienna's rise was central to Austria's identity. As a capital, it was more than a seat of government. It became a stage where imperial power was displayed through palaces, churches, ceremonies, administration, and culture. Its location near the eastern edge of the German-speaking world also made it a meeting point between Western and Eastern Europe. From Vienna, Habsburg rulers dealt with German principalities, Hungarian lands, Bohemia, the Balkans, and rival powers beyond. Over time, the city gained a reputation for music, intellectual life, and aristocratic elegance, but that cultural image was built on political importance. Vienna mattered because decisions made there affected much of Central Europe. The city symbolized Austria's unusual role, relatively small as a homeland, but historically enormous as an imperial center. In 1806, the Holy Roman Empire was dissolved, ending a political structure that had existed for roughly 1,000 years. But Austria had already prepared for a new era. In 1804, it established its own empire, known as the Austrian Empire. This reflected the shifting balance of power during the Napoleonic period, when old institutions were being destroyed or reorganized. The Austrian Empire became one of Europe's great powers and one of its largest states. It included many peoples, languages, and regions, which made it powerful but also difficult to govern. Austria was not simply a nation-state in the modern sense. It was an imperial structure, trying to hold together diverse territories under dynastic rule. That diversity was both its strength and its long-term challenge. By the 19th century, Austria faced growing pressure from nationalism, military defeat, and competition with other European powers. Losses in wars and the loss of territories in the 1860s weakened the old imperial arrangement. In 1867, this led to the creation of Austria-Hungary, also known as the dual monarchy. Under this system, Austria and Hungary were linked under the same monarch but had separate political structures in many domestic matters. The arrangement was designed to manage Hungarian demands for autonomy while preserving the empire. But it did not solve every problem. Many other groups within the empire, including Czechs, Slovaks, Slovenes, Croats, and others, also had national aspirations. Austria-Hungary remained a major European power, but it was a fragile one, balancing tradition, reform, ethnic complexity, and geopolitical rivalry. Austria-Hungary's final crisis came in 1914. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the imperial throne, set off a chain reaction. Emperor Franz Joseph declared war on Serbia, and alliances rapidly transformed a regional conflict into World War I. The war devastated Europe and placed enormous strain on Austria-Hungary's military, economy, and political system. By 1918, the empire collapsed. The Republic of German Austria was proclaimed, followed by the First Austrian Republic in 1919. This was a dramatic transformation. A country that had once been the core of a sprawling empire was reduced to a much smaller republic. Austrians now had to redefine themselves without imperial status, without many of their former territories, and within a new European order built from the ruins of war. The interwar years were unstable and tense. Like many European countries after World War I, Austria faced economic hardship, ideological polarization, and arguments over the future of parliamentary democracy. Anti-parliamentarian sentiment grew, and in 1934 Engelbert Dollfuss established an Austro-fascist dictatorship. This regime was authoritarian and opposed to liberal democracy, but Austria's independence was also threatened by Nazi Germany. In 1938, 1 year before World War II began, Adolf Hitler annexed Austria into Nazi Germany in an event known as the Anschluss. Austria ceased to function as an independent state and became a subnational division of the Nazi regime. This period remains one of the darkest chapters in Austrian history, tied to dictatorship, war, persecution, and complicity in Nazi crimes. After Nazi Germany's defeat, Austria was liberated in 1945, but freedom did not immediately mean full sovereignty. The country was occupied by Allied powers for a decade. During this time, Austria had to rebuild its institutions, economy, and international position. In 1955, it regained sovereignty through the Austrian State Treaty and declared perpetual neutrality. Neutrality became a defining feature of post-war Austria. It meant the country would not join military alliances in the Cold War and would present itself as a bridge between East and West. This was not just a legal stance, it was a national strategy. After centuries of imperial entanglement and two devastating world wars, Austria built a modern identity around stability, diplomacy, and non-alignment. Modern Austria is a semi-presidential representative democracy. It has a popularly elected president as head of state and a chancellor as head of government and chief executive. It is also a federation of 9 states, with Vienna uniquely serving as both the capital and the most populous state. Austria is known for high living standards and has one of the world's highest nominal GDP per capita rankings. Its economy is closely connected to European trade, industry, tourism, services, and advanced manufacturing. The Alps remain central to its image and economy, attracting visitors for skiing, hiking, and mountain culture. But Austria is not just a scenic destination. It is a wealthy, highly developed country with strong public institutions and a major role in regional European life. Austria's international role reflects its post-war transformation. It joined the United Nations in 1955, the same year it regained sovereignty, and became a member of the European Union in 1995. It also joined the Schengen area and adopted the euro, integrating deeply into the European project while maintaining its policy of neutrality. Vienna hosts important international organizations, including the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and OPEC, and Austria is a founding member of the OECD and Interpol. This combination is what makes Austria distinctive today. It is no longer an empire, but it still sits at the center of diplomacy. It is neutral, but not isolated. It is small in territory, yet historically and politically significant. Austria's story is one of reinvention, from frontier march to imperial heartland, from collapsed empire to modern European democracy. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.